Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, we are going to talk about the dreaded foreclosure today and talk about what's actually happening. This is data from Atom, A-T-T-O-M. They're a data analytics company. They track all this stuff. They are literally the best source for this information. The worst source, Crash Bros. Because if you watch their videos, foreclosures are going up, and we're going to show you that that's not true. Okay, U.S. foreclosure activity declines both monthly and annually in August 2024. Now, what does that mean? What is the word? Decline sounds like a scary word. Does that mean home prices are declining?
It means we have less foreclosures now than we did previously.
But I thought okay. So monthly means since July, and then annually means since August of 2023.
Right. So part of the reason that we have less foreclosures now than we did last year is because last year we were still kind of doing cleanup from the pandemic foreclosures that were postponed. So that kind of has all settled out. And now we're dealing with a foreclosure market that is more in tune with what's actually happening currently versus cleaning up something from the past.
Okay, here's the first paragraph of the article. Atom, a leading curator of land, property, and real estate, today released its August 2024 U.S. Foreclosure Market report, which shows there were a total of 30,227 U.S. properties with a foreclosure filing. Important notice, whenever they say foreclosure filings, what they mean is one of three things: a default, an auction, the scheduling the foreclosure auction, or a bank repossession, meaning bank repossession is what you all would consider the foreclosure, that it was taken back, okay? It's not what you see on TV, because TV has the worst ever. The bank is going to foreclose tomorrow. You have to sign, Ray, from Field of Dreams. Sign, Ray, or the bank's going to foreclose tomorrow. That's not how it works. Down 5.3% from a month ago and down 11% from a year ago. So it's down, down, down. Okay. All right. Let's talk about these three things. Default notice.
Okay, so
what does that even mean?
Right, so that means that the borrower is 90 days or more late and the bank files a default notice. This is required in order to get the foreclosure process started. If the borrower catches up or makes some other arrangements with the lender, then that notice goes away. And if there's another episode where the person is behind 90 days, then a new filing has to take place. If nothing happens with the first 90-day foreclosure, then it goes to mediation. After mediation, then they have to have, if they can't come to terms there either, then they're going to have another filing, which is the 28-day filing, which lets them know that, hey, in 28 days, the property will be sold on the courthouse steps. If nothing happens before the property is sold on the courthouse steps, then that's the final step, where the property is actually sold on the courthouse steps. Now, on the courthouse steps, there are two options. One, the property goes back to the beneficiary, which is the lender, or two, the property is purchased by another party, so maybe an investor or someone like that.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of these. First of all, the default notice doesn't mean foreclosure's imminent. As a matter of fact, most properties get numerous notice defaults and then never get foreclosed.
That's correct.
Why is that?
So a lot of reasons. One of them is, like I said, that there's a mediation process in there. So after the first 90 day, then you can file and request mediation. So now you're requesting mediation. That mediation could be scheduled out several months. And then a new notice of default has to be filed with that before you can file the 28-day notice, because you can't file that until there's been the 90-day notice. So there are lots of things that could happen in between. Different states have different rules. We're just letting you know the way it works in Nevada, but this is sort of pretty typical that there are steps in between.
Okay, we're going to now show you a chart, first of all, that will give you the total number of foreclosures. Starts. Now, these are foreclosure starts.
So that's that 90-day notice.
Now, remember, this includes a property getting numerous foreclosure starts. This is just notice of defaults. This is foreclosure starts. But this one property could be 12 or 15 foreclosure starts every month. They could, every 90 days they could file on it again. Okay, here's the chart. If you go all the way over, it starts at 2005. It's basically like a 20-year chart. You can see the level of foreclosures there that we need. It was over, this is by quarter. It's, almost 600,000 a quarter. Remember, the number was like 20,000 or something. It was like not a big number. Well, that was in August. That was just in August. Now, remember, back then, here's another difference that they're not showing you. Between that peak that you're looking at and today, a bunch of changes happened. And the changes were, in Nevada, you got the notice of default. 90 days later, notice of trustee sale. 28 days later, it was foreclosed. That was it. You don't have that today. So not only is this number massively lower, the number's actually higher. When you look at this, it's higher than it actually really is because of multiple notice of defaults that are being filed on one property that end up being resolved.
Right.
That didn't happen before. Here's another thing. If you look at that little dip, that was the pandemic area where everyone held off on the foreclosures. Well, some of those did get foreclosed and they just moved them. It took them a couple years. So you're just seeing them happen now. But this number is not going up. It's not going to go up. This chart one is pretty interesting. Nowhere on this chart, except for the pandemic, in the last 20 years have foreclosures starts been lower. What are some reasons for that?
So, first of all, we have nationally like 40+% of homes are owned free and clear.
What was it maybe 20 years ago? How much do you know about what it was?
So this is the highest it's ever been. I think we were teetering somewhere more closer to the 20% mark.
I think it was 16%.
Okay.
16% 20 years ago.
Right. So we've got more than 40% of homes owned free and clear nationally.
They can't really get foreclosed.
They can, but not by the lender. So if they
There is no lender.
Right.
Okay, that's all we're talking about.
Right.
We're not talking about didn't pay your taxes.
Right.
Because that's a completely different thing.
Right. So as far as a lender foreclosure, obviously if there's no lender because the property's free and clear, a lender can't foreclose on it. The other reason why there are less foreclosures is because, of course, lots of people have equity, right? Almost everybody out there has equity in the home, which means that if by some circumstance people get behind on payments and can't resolve it in any way, then they can go ahead and sell the home and pay off the loan and then pocket whatever is left over. So that's a huge portion of the population that are homeowners out there, because let's face it, almost everybody has equity. And then, of course, you've got so many homes that are not necessarily in either camp, right? Because they may be institutionally owned. So if they're an institutional lender, then those we would consider free and clear home, even if they have some debt against the whole portfolio.
Okay, here's the last thing, and then we'll move on to more data because the data is really mind-blowing here. The thing I hear all the time is, Todd, the job that we're watching the recession happen. We've been watching it for 4 years. It's happening in real time. People are everywhere losing their jobs. In Las Vegas, nobody has a job. Okay, we have the highest unemployment and we have the largest job growth in the nation, but we also have the highest unemployment in the nation, okay? They're going to have to. They won't be able to make that mortgage payment. Juana, you have an $1,100 mortgage payment because you bought your house 6 years ago at 3.2%. You find out that you may lose your job and you'll be out of work for a year or whatever. And your next door neighbor is paying $2,200 a month rent. Do you want to just give up your house and say, oh, darn it, I guess I have to sell and get rid of this $1,100 a month payment. I'll never get that interest rate back again and go rent and pay even more. If you don't have the money, if you don't have the money to make an $1,100 a month payment mortgage, how do you magically have the money to make a $2,200 a month rent payment? That makes no sense.
Okay, so let me kind of flip that around a little bit.
Okay.
If you can't make your $1,100 mortgage payment, you're not going to be evicted in 30 to 45 days. If you can't make whatever your rent payment is, you will be evicted in 30 to 45 days. So, payments aside, it's just a matter of just being pragmatic. You can stay in the home much longer by not making a mortgage payment than you can stay in a home where you're a tenant. That's just the bottom line.
It takes in the U.S. almost 3 years to get foreclosed. You could literally say, forget it, I'm just not going to pay it. Good luck. And then a year later, you get your job again and you call up the bank, go, hey, guess what? I got my job. I can start making payments. How about I pay you $1,500 a month for the next 3 years? I'll make up all the payments. And they go, sounds good. And you're done. That's it.
Yep.
And you keep your 3% interest rate. You keep us way less than you would pay rent. This is why people aren't getting foreclosed. Here are the numbers. Remember that 20,000 number? These are the actual number of repossessions where it was actually taken. Okay. Remember, those were just filings. The greatest number by state in August, Pennsylvania, 266. How many millions of people live in Pennsylvania?
A lot.
It's like 20 million people. It's like half the size of Romania, probably. It's not, maybe not 20 million. It's a lot of people live in Pennsylvania. 266. If I gave you a car and said you have the whole month of August to drive around, I want you to just drive around and drive by one of these foreclosures. You'd never find them. Mm-hmm. There's only 266 in the entire state in a month. That's less than 10 a day per the whole state. Okay. California 229. California is a huge state. Mm-hmm. It's the most populous state in the U.S.
It's like 27 million people.
Yeah, there's 229 a month. Illinois 224, Michigan 206, Florida 202. So these are huge states. Mm-hmm. You know what Nevada's number is for August? Mm-mm. It was like 12. Remember, filings are one thing because you have to keep filing MDs, but there are not a lot of foreclosures. Mm-hmm. It was actually a little more in the whole state of Nevada. For Las Vegas, it was 12. But for the whole state, it was probably 30 for the entire state. And look at these other states. So that doesn't move the needle. Now, here's the funny thing. These are the largest actual metropolitan statistical areas. You would know them as a city, but Dallas-Fort Worth, the whole metroplex would be considered one area. Mm-hmm. Phoenix would be include Scottsdale probably and all that, right? Vegas includes Henderson, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and all that is all included in Las Vegas, right? So Chicago had 154. Chicago is the second largest city in the U.S. Mm-hmm. by population. Detroit 114, New York 112, Pittsburgh 100, and Baltimore 56. So you've got less than 2 a day in the 5th highest city of foreclosures. Less than 2 a day. Remember, there's millions of people who live there too. Mm-hmm. These numbers are statistically zero. They might, if it was zero or these numbers, you wouldn't know the difference, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And remember, I said, if Las Vegas, you're going, wait, but I heard Las Vegas had the highest rate or the highest number. Remember, we have like 2.4 million people in the whole area, and the city of Las Vegas, which is well over a million, only has 12. Mm-hmm. That's super low, right?
Right.
Okay. So why, when you see the Crash Bros, they make their super crazy videos about all the people getting foreclosed. They never talk about people who own free and clear. Mm-hmm. They never talk about the other 98% of borrowers who are borrowers who have under 4% probably or 5% rate. They don't want to ever give that up. Mm-hmm. They're going to do whatever it takes to stay in the house. They never talk about the banks willing to work things out. Mm-hmm. They only talk about one thing: a guy who just bought and paid 7.5%. and his home hasn't gone up 30% in value. And they say as soon as he loses his job, that house is gone. And that may be the case. But honestly, that's very few homes. And here's another thing on it. I'm going to put this chart up here. This is today's Freddie Mac mortgage rates. 30-year fixed, 6.2%. What's cool about this chart is when you look at it's the lowest it's been in the last 52 weeks. Mm-hmm. Look at this chart and look at the trend. This is just the trend since, this is the last year. It's the lowest it's been. These things are tanking. If you got a 7.79%, that was the highest a year ago. If you got a 7.79% rate, you can today refi for 6.2%. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people, Juana, when they got their loan, didn't some of their lenders offer them like a one-time no-cost refi? A lot of lenders did, yeah. So you could literally go, boom, I'll just take the 6.2. Mm-hmm. Or you could wait it out. Mm-hmm. If you want to do a 15%, it's 5.27%. Mm-hmm. Ready for this? 30-year fixed VA, 5.12%. 15-year fixed is a 4.87. We had somebody in the channel who posted that they got their 30-year VA refied at 4.99%. Mm-hmm. So basically 5%, right? Got it refied. Juana, all these people with these ridiculously high 6 and 7% rates, mm-hmm. they're just all going to refi when rates are going to tank. I don't know how low rates are going to go, but by this time next year, I think rates are going to be at least a percentage less, because I think the Fed is going to be cutting rates 3 times this year, 5 or 6 times next year. I don't think we're going to get back to 3%, but I would not be surprised to see 5.2% 30-year fixed Freddie, 4.2% VAs, and all the 15s under 5%. I mean, it's the 15 years already 4.8, so under 4%.
And that's very possible, and regarding your example of somebody with 7.5%, and as soon as this person loses his job, then the house is gone. Well, yes and no. Okay, the house is gone, but he's got equity, right? Because he put down 20% down, or however much he put down. So it's not like the house is going to get foreclosed. It's not, because he has equity, so he has the opportunity to sell the house and recoup money out of that.
Right. There is zero long-term foreclosure risk. All of the foreclosures we had that caused the housing crash was caused by foreclosures. All of those risks have been ameliorated. Lenders lending to people with a 480 credit score or something, liar's loans. You could buy 5 houses with just, all you had to do was write in, I make $100,000 a year. Oh, we'll give you 5 houses. You can buy 5 houses with that money. And then they would run into the new home builder and go, I want to buy 5 houses. And the new home builder would go, oh my gosh, people are buying houses like crazy. Let's build as fast as we can. And people are buying 5 houses and flipping them to other people who are trying to buy 5 houses. Right? You saw that movie, The Big Short. And then after a couple of years, that ran out and nobody was buying the houses and the home prices collapsed. That's all gone. You can't do that anymore.
No.
That subprime loan stuff is gone. I can foreclose in Nevada, it was 118 days. Mm-hmm. You could start missing payments, notice of default, 115 days, you're out of the house. That's a 3-year process now. Mm-hmm. You had 16% of people own their home back then. Today's 42% and climbing. And you also had, most of the people back then had 8.5%. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, if you had gotten a time machine and gone back 20 years ago before the housing crash and said, we have a really problem. Interest rates have skyrocketed for buying a home. And you go, really? How high are they? You ready for this? They've doubled, more than doubled. And the people go, oh my God, well, they're 8.5 now. They must be 17% again. Where are they? 6.2%. Wait, how is that double? Oh, well, they were 3% 3 years ago. And now they're at 6.2. They would laugh in your face because interest rates 20 years ago all these people are buying these houses at 8.5% rate.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully this was interesting. Please leave us your real estate related comments.
Hopefully there's some crash bros out there crying because all the foreclosure BS that they've read is fake. There's no foreclosures.
Okay. Comments, real estate related comments. Leave those comments down below. Remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.